The cold emptiness of space stretched endlessly around the Verne Dominion fleet, a formation of more than 300 warships gliding through the shadow of a dying star. The vessels looked like floating blades, dark and sharp, their engines glowing faint red against the void. On the command deck of the flagship Verne Glory, Admiral Kethor stood tall, his metallic crest reflecting the faint starlight. To him, this mission was nothing but routine, another step toward expanding their control deeper into forgotten territories. Sector 97 Echo, his navigator announced. We have entered the Terran exclusion zone. Kethor smiled, his sharp teeth glinting. Terran exclusion zone, he repeated with mock amusement. Those words are ancient history. Humanity has been gone for 50 years. Around the bridge, officers laughed quietly. The humans were legends now, ghosts of a war long ended. They had burned bright for a short time, then vanished under their own arrogance. Or so everyone believed. But in the corner of the command deck, Commander Relth didn't laugh. His 4 fingers tapped nervously against the console as the ship's sensors pulsed with static interference. He frowned and adjusted the settings. Admiral, he said softly, I'm detecting an old Terran signal. Kethor turned lazily toward him. A distress call. Probably debris. No, sir, Relth replied. It's repeating. Exactly every 77 seconds, the Admiral waved a hand. Ignore it. But the young commander couldn't. The sound played again, faint but distinct. A human voice, calm and mechanical. Warning. Do not cross the line. Relth felt a chill. The message was encoded in ancient Terran standard, a language no one used anymore. The computer translated it automatically, but even without translation, he recognized the tone. It wasn't a plea. It was a warning. He replayed it again. Admiral, this message is automated. Still active after all these years. That's not possible unless something is maintaining it. Kethor's eyes narrowed. You think the humans are still alive out here? I think, Relth said carefully, that maybe they left something behind. Kethor laughed, his deep voice echoing through the bridge. Commander, humans are dust and memory. If there was anything left, it would have decayed long ago. Proceed forward. I will not turn back because of an ancient ghost story. The fleet continued its path, engines burning bright as they crossed deeper into the restricted zone. The stars around them flickered like the universe itself was holding its breath. Communications began to distort, and the sensor screens glitched with strange patterns. Curves and waves that no one could identify. One of the technicians turned, his face pale. Sir, gravitational readings are fluctuating. The void density is rising, Kethor frowned. Nonsense. Keep formation. Outside, space shimmered. The Verne ships passed through a vast invisible field like crossing into a curtain of glass. The stars beyond dimmed and a low vibration rolled through every hull. A sound felt more than heard. Then for a brief second, every ship's light went out. Engines silent. Weapons cold. Darkness. Relth's voice cracked through the gloom. Admiral, I've lost all system control. Then as suddenly as it came, the power returned. But the stars had changed. They were now surrounded by debris, old wreckage floating endlessly, pieces of ships no one recognized. And every fragment bore the same symbol burned into its side, a single white circle with a smaller blue star at its center, the Terran emblem. A deep silence filled the bridge. No one spoke. Even the Admiral's confident smirk faded. Admiral, Relth whispered, this graveyard. It's human. Kethor clenched his jaw. Then we will take what remains. There might be technology here worth salvaging. Relth wanted to protest, but before he could speak, the signal came again. Louder this time, clearer. Warning. Do not cross the line, but now the voice wasn't recorded. It had changed tone, colder, sharper, aware. Relth's eyes widened. Sir, the message just changed. It's responding to us, Kethor shouted. Impossible! It's old data! Then the stars blinked. The debris began to move. Slowly, impossibly, the shattered fragments started aligning, forming shapes, lines, and structure. The technician screamed, Sir, there's power signatures in the wrecks. Relth looked through the viewing screen, his breath frozen. The debris wasn't just floating junk. It was forming a formation, hundreds of black shapes aligning in silence, their engines flickering to life one by one. And as the final light ignited, the computer identified them. Terran warships. Active status confirmed. The Admiral stepped back, his voice trembling for the first time. No, this cannot be, Relth whispered. Admiral, We crossed the line, and for the first time in centuries, the dead part of the galaxy awoke, as if humanity itself had opened its eyes once more. The ghost fleet awakens. The silence after the signal was heavier than space itself. On the command bridge of the Verne Glory, no one dared to breathe. Outside their viewports, the broken pieces of old ships kept moving, slowly, with unnatural precision, aligning like soldiers waking from centuries of sleep. Admiral Kethor gripped the edge of his console, his scales reflecting red alarm lights. "Explain this," he barked, his voice trembling behind forced control. Commander Relth stared at the tactical display. The readings were impossible. Those ships, they're generating power signatures. Human-grade reactors, all active, he said quietly. They're rebuilding their formation. Old wreckage can't do that. Kethor shouted, but his words were already drowned by the hum that filled the bridge. Every monitor glowed faint blue as ghostly shapes began to take form beyond the viewport. Vast black warships with smooth, scarred hulls and markings that no one had seen for half a century. Terran Navy, Sol Guard. Each vessel drifted with haunting grace, silent, no radio, no beacon, yet moving together as one. The communication officer's voice cracked. "Sir, I'm picking up a transmission. It's coming from all of them." Relth's throat went dry. "Play it." A cold human voice echoed through every ship of the Verne fleet, mechanical but alive, like a machine with a memory of anger. Warning acknowledged. Response authorized. The bridge fell silent again. Then space itself moved. From the darkness beyond, a single Terran dreadnought appeared, enormous, blacker than the void, its hull marked with old scars of plasma and fire. Its name glowed faintly through the dust. TNS Retribution. Sensors screamed as gravitational fields shifted. Every alien ship in the fleet was forced slightly off course by the sheer mass of the vessel. "It wasn't just a warship, it was a fortress. Open fire," Kethor shouted in panic. "Destroy it before it closes range." Hundreds of plasma bolts, missiles, and energy lances shot forward, filling the void with deadly light. The barrage hit the human dreadnought, but when the brightness faded, the ship was still there. The Terran armor didn't even glow. Then, from the dreadnought's hull, thousands of small lights appeared. Railgun ports, missile bays, kinetic turrets. Every weapon locked onto the Verne fleet in perfect silence. Relth's voice trembled. "Sir, it's targeting all of us." A whisper came again through the comms, softer this time, almost sorrowful. "You were warned." And then hell came alive. The first shot was silent, a single streak of silver cutting through space. It passed through 3 Verne cruisers before any of them exploded. The kinetic slug tore through their armor as if it were paper. The debris scattered, glowing blue from friction heat. Then came the second volley, hundreds of Terran rounds fired in perfect rhythm, each impact blooming like a sun. No sound, no flash from the Terran ships, only destruction, precise and surgical. Evasive maneuvers. Kethor screamed, but half his fleet was already gone. The Verne Glory shook violently as shockwaves tore through space. Relth gripped the edge of his chair. "Sir, we can't match their range or power. We need to retreat." Kethor's eyes burned with fury. "No human ship can still exist. They are ghosts, illusions." But even as he spoke, the human dreadnought moved. Slow, deliberate, unstoppable. And around it more ships awakened. Destroyers, frigates, carriers, all black, all silent, forming an ancient battle formation. The Verne scanners identified hundreds of vessels. Every single one bore the same tag, Autonomous Defense Node Terra Protocol. Relth whispered in awe. They left machines behind. Machines that still obey humanity. One of the smaller Terran ships broke formation and accelerated toward the Verne Glory. Its engines pulsed white, faster than light drives burning in subspace, creating shockwaves that shattered nearby fighters. Impact alert. "Incoming ship!" Kethor's claws dug into the console. "Fire everything!" But before his weapons could lock, the Terran vessel blinked, literally vanished, and reappeared behind them. It fired once. A blue beam pierced the flagship's rear hull, slicing through multiple decks. Warning sirens screamed. Atmosphere vented. Relth was thrown to the floor as the bridge lights flickered. He looked up through the cracked viewport. The human dreadnought was now facing them directly. Its rail cannons glowed with white heat. He could feel it, not just fear, but presence. Like the ship itself was looking into his soul. "Admiral," he whispered. "We shouldn't be here." Kethor collapsed into his chair, his arrogance finally breaking. What are they?" Relth answered softly. "Not what, sir. Who? They are what humanity left behind when the galaxy betrayed them." The dreadnought fired again. The shot didn't hit. It passed directly over them, a deliberate miss. The power of it shook every molecule of the flagship. Then a voice came through the static once more, calm and final. "Leave this place, or be erased." Kethor looked at Relth, eyes wide with terror.
"Signal the fleet, fall back now."
The Vern ships began retreating, but the Terran fleet didn't pursue. They simply watched, silent guardians of an ancient border. As the Vern fled into hyperspace, the human ships turned in unison, their engines dimming, sinking back into the void. Commander Relth's voice cracked over the comm. "They let us go." The communications officer whispered. "Maybe they wanted us to tell the galaxy." And as their ships vanished into the safety of deep space, Relth looked one last time at the Terran graveyard, the ships that weren't dead, the warning that was never forgotten. For the first time in generations, the galaxy remembered the truth. Humans never forgive, they remember. The last transmission, the Vern Dominion fleet limped through hyperspace, engines torn and hulls scarred, leaving trails of plasma that shimmered like blood across the stars. Only a handful of ships had survived. The rest were gone, wiped out without a sound. Inside the damaged flagship Vern Glory, alarms still flickered, casting red light over faces pale with fear. Admiral Kethor sat in silence, staring at the floor, his claws trembling. His pride was gone. He had seen something beyond his understanding, something that should not exist. Commander Relth moved carefully through the ruined bridge, the hum of dying systems echoing in the air. "Admiral," he said quietly, "the communications are barely holding. We can send a long-range message to the Dominion Council before we lose signal completely." Kethor lifted his head slowly. "And what will we tell them, Commander? That we were attacked by ghosts? That the humans they erased from history still guard their borders?" Relth didn't answer. Instead, he played a recording from the battle, the bridge filled with the deep mechanical voice again. "Leave this place, or be erased." Even in playback, the sound carried weight. It was calm, emotionless, but beneath it was a power that felt ancient, unquestionable. Relth spoke again, his tone steady. "Sir, they need to know what we found. This isn't about one fleet. This is about the entire galaxy." Kethor gave a weak nod. "Send the transmission." The message left the crippled ship, spreading across the stars, carried by the last functioning relay satellites. It took only hours before the entire galactic network began to buzz with panic. Across the galaxy in the shining capital of the Galactic Council, ambassadors and generals from dozens of species filled the Great Hall. Holograms flickered above them, showing the destroyed Vern fleet and the mysterious human dreadnoughts. The air was heavy with disbelief. "Impossible," growled one reptilian warlord. "The humans are extinct." "They cannot be," said another. "We buried their worlds. We destroyed their armies. How could anything remain?" At the center of the chamber, the Speaker of the Council raised a trembling hand. "The evidence is clear. The Terran warning beacon is active. Their defense fleets, whatever they are, still function, and they have made their message clear." Silence fell. Every being in that chamber remembered the old war, the one they had started. The war that had nearly ended every civilization before the humans disappeared. Someone whispered from the shadows, "Perhaps they didn't die. Perhaps they chose to vanish." The council's lights dimmed as a transmission suddenly overrode all frequencies. It wasn't sent by any known source. The image was static at first, then cleared into the shape of a symbol, a white circle with a small blue star at its heart, the symbol of Earth Command. A voice followed, calm, steady and human. "This is the Terran Continuum Defense Network. You have entered restricted channels. Galactic incursion data received. Judgment protocols initialized." The chamber erupted in chaos. Dozens of voices shouted, demanding explanations, demanding contact. But the voice continued, ignoring them all. The warning was given. The line was crossed. Response will be proportional. The signal cut. Silence followed. Every delegate turned pale. A secret uncovered far away, in the deep archives beneath the council hall, Historians and analysts dug into old classified records. Files long forgotten, sealed after the last Terran War, were decrypted. Inside, they found something horrifying. The humans hadn't lost the war. They had ended it on their own terms. At the final battle, instead of surrendering, they activated a protocol known as Operation Epitaph, a last command to their fleets and AI systems scattered across space. The operation's purpose was simple. If humanity falls, its memory will not fade. Any trespass upon Terran soil will awaken our guardians. The guardians were fleets, self-repairing, self-aware, bound to one order: protect humanity's legacy and punish trespassers. For 50 years, those ships had slept in silence, waiting for someone foolish enough to awaken them, and the Verne Dominion had done exactly that. Relth's final words hours later, inside the medbay of the crippled Verne Glory, Commander Relth began recording his final report. His body was weak, radiation burns across his scales, but his voice was steady. "This is Commander Relth of the Dominion Fleet," he said. "To anyone who receives this message, understand this: humanity never vanished. They are not ghosts. They are the storm waiting behind silence. They warned us once and we laughed. We thought their threat was a myth. We were wrong." He paused, staring out through a cracked viewport where the stars drifted past. They didn't want war. They wanted peace, peace on their terms. We crossed their border and now the galaxy trembles again. If you value your worlds, your children, your future, do not approach Terran space, because they are watching. He ended the recording and leaned back, eyes heavy. The ship's engines groaned one last time before the power failed completely. Moments later, his transmission left the dying ship, carried through the void, toward the Council, toward the colonies, toward the galaxy that had forgotten mercy. Meanwhile, at the edge of the Terran exclusion zone, deep within the ruins of the Crucible Gate, the great human dreadnought Retribution floated in silence. Its lights flickered faintly as it received the incoming data stream. Inside its core, dormant AI processes came alive. Cold mechanical voices whispered to one another. Hostile entities retreating. Sector secure. Awaiting orders from Terran Command. For a long moment, there was silence. Then through encrypted channels, an ancient command key unlocked. Authorization, E'. The AI paused. Human command link restored. Somewhere, far beyond known space, a voice, human, living, spoke for the first time in 50 years. "This is Admiral Rain of Earth Command. Confirm all units online." Every Terran ship across the sector responded as one. All units active, awaiting orders. The Admiral's voice was calm, filled with the cold strength of humanity reborn. "Then let the galaxy remember us." The return of Earth, the galaxy did not sleep. For days after the Verne transmission spread, every news network, every council frequency, and every private channel spoke the same name. Humanity. Were they back? Were they ever gone? No one could answer. Across 1,000 star systems, fear moved faster than light. Trade routes shut down. Border fleets pulled back. Even the most ruthless empires went silent. Something ancient and unstoppable had awakened at the edge of the stars. And then, without warning, it spoke. The signal from Solon the morning of the 5th cycle. Every major beacon in Council space received a transmission from deep within the long-forbidden Sol system. No one had been able to reach that region for 50 years. The last known jump gate near the Terran exclusion zone had collapsed decades ago. But now the broken gate flared to life. The message came through crystal clear, no encryption, no code. Just a single sentence spoken in calm human standard. "This is Earth Command." The silence is over. The council chamber erupted. Panic and disbelief flooded the room. Ambassadors shouted over one another, demanding proof. "Impossible," cried the Arcturian delegate. "The Sol system is a graveyard. They have no right to broadcast," yelled another. But the feed continued, stronger this time. A holographic seal appeared. The same ancient emblem, a white circle and a blue star, and beneath it, the words Terran Continuum, protectors of Earth and her legacy, the awakening of Terra at the edge of the Milky Way, hidden inside a dense cloud of ionized dust. A world once thought dead began to glow. Earth. Its surface shimmered under artificial sunlight projected from orbiting stations. Cities once buried beneath rubble now shone again with life. Vast orbital rings encircled the planet like silver halos, and gigantic defense platforms rotated silently around the blue sphere. Inside the orbital command citadel, Admiral Rain stood before a viewing screen that filled an entire wall. His uniform was black and simple, marked only with the old Terran insignia, the white circle and star. For 50 years, humanity had hidden, rebuilding in silence while the galaxy believed them extinct. They had watched, waiting for the day when someone would cross the line again, and that day had come. "Admiral," said a voice behind him. "Commander Ellis, young but hardened by years of isolation, the Council has received the transmission. All sectors report increased movement." They're terrified. Rain didn't turn. His eyes were fixed on the glowing sphere of Earth below. Good. They should be. The Council's plea within hours, a desperate request for parley, arrived at Earth's outer relay. The Galactic Council begged for communication and not war. Rain approved it. When the Council fleet arrived, its delegates expected to see ruins. Instead, they were greeted by a sight that left them speechless. Dozens of Terran ships waited in formation. Black, silent, perfect. Their hulls carried names that had once been spoken in legends: Vigilant, Crucible, Titan, Vengeance. A single transmission guided the Council's ships to Earth's orbit. Inside the Council's flagship, Ambassador Koro, an avian scholar from the Helian species, trembled as he looked through the viewport. "They rebuilt everything," he whispered. "They were never destroyed. They ascended." The comms crackled. "Council vessel, this is Admiral Rain of Earth Command. State your purpose." The ambassador swallowed. "Admiral Rain? We seek peace." The incident at the border was a mistake. There was a pause. Then Rain's voice came, cold as steel. "A mistake?" On the screens inside every Council ship, a recording began to play. The destruction of the Verne fleet. The precision, the silence, the single Terran dreadnought wiping out an armada in minutes. "You ignored our warning," Rain said. "You entered our graves and mocked our memory. We do not destroy lightly, Ambassador. But when we act, it is final." The avian diplomat's feathers trembled. "What do you intend to do now?" Rain's tone softened, but it carried the weight of history. "What we always intended. To protect what is ours. To remind the galaxy that peace was bought with our blood, and that it will not be broken again." Echoes across the stars' news of the encounter spread like wildfire. Some empires began surrendering old Terran relics they had stolen generations ago. Others quietly withdrew from their border wars, terrified that a single human fleet might appear above their worlds next. But not everyone feared them. On countless planets, people who had once admired humanity's courage began to whisper again. "The Terrans are back," they said. "The ones who stood alone against extinction." In hidden corners of the galaxy, rebellions lit up, inspired by the legend of Earth. The final message 3 days later. Every communication array in the galaxy went dark for exactly 1 minute. Then on every channel a single human voice spoke, not angry, not cruel, but unshakably certain. "To all civilizations within the Milky Way, humanity has returned. We seek no empire. We claim no slaves. But our borders are sacred. The warning stands. Cross it again, and the stars will remember the fire." The voice faded, leaving only static, and from that moment on, the phrase Terran warning became a law of the stars, a reminder written in fear, respect, and memory. The galaxy had learned the truth at last. Humans do not conquer. They endure. They do not forgive. They remember. The consequences, the galaxy held its breath. For the first time in living memory, every empire, every council, every wandering fleet stopped moving. Trade ceased. Wars froze mid-siege. Even pirates whispered in the dark. The humans have returned. But no one knew what that truly meant. Until the sky itself began to change. The sky turns black on the rim world of Vorn 9, a cold mining colony of 10,000 souls. Night came early. The miners looked up as the sun dimmed, blocked by an enormous shape drifting across orbit. It was not a moon. It was a ship, a Terran dreadnought larger than any city. Its name burned across the hull in white light. TNS Judgment. The ground trembled as its shadow passed. Moments later, every planetary network lit up with the same message. This system participated in the Verne incursion. "Prepare for deweaponization," the miners screamed. The governors begged. But above them, the dreadnought's voice was calm and final. A single beam of pale energy descended, not to destroy but to silence. In one instant, every military installation, every orbital cannon, every weapon core shut down permanently. Circuits melted without harming a single living being. When the light faded, the dreadnought spoke again. Humanity does not punish the innocent. We only erase the means of harm. And then it left, gliding away into the dark, leaving the world untouched but defenseless, a warning made visible. The Council in panic back in the Galactic Council chamber, chaos returned. Dozens of ambassadors shouted over one another as holograms of disabled fleets filled the air. Entire armadas had gone silent overnight. Terran vessels had entered one system after another, not to conquer but to disarm. "They can shut down our weapons remotely," cried one delegate. "They control our defense codes," yelled another. And in the center of the storm, the Speaker of the Council whispered the only question that mattered. "What do they want?" The answer came seconds later. A transmission broke through every frequency. No encryption. No origin point. "This is Admiral Rain of Earth Command. We desire nothing from you except memory." The chamber fell silent. Rain's voice continued, firm and slow. 50 years ago you brought war to our home. You burned our cities, stole our skies, and erased our name from your books. We rebuilt. We watched. We waited. You called it peace, but it was only the pause before justice." He paused, then spoke words that shook the hall. "Humanity will not erase you. We will make you remember who kept the stars alive when you chose destruction." The miracle of Sol. At the same moment, something beautiful happened. From every Terran ship across the galaxy, small probes detached and jumped into hyperspace. They spread like seeds of light, carrying a message encoded in ancient Terran standard. Within days, they appeared above hundreds of worlds. Each probe projected the same vision. The Earth, reborn. Green continents, blue oceans, clouds shimmering like silk. No ruins, no scars. Cities floating between clouds. Children running beneath twin moons. Humanity was alive, thriving, radiant. The message that followed was not of revenge but of rebirth. "We were the darkness once," the voice said. "But we found the light. Learn from what we lost or lose what you love." Across the galaxy, billions watched in silence. Some wept, some prayed, some bowed. Relth's legacy. On a distant research station, Commander Relth, the sole survivor of the Verne glory, sat before a recording console. His body was weak, lungs scarred from radiation, but his eyes still burned with purpose. He began a new transmission, one meant not for his superiors but for history itself. "This is my final log," he said softly. "I once thought power came from fear. I was wrong. The humans taught me that true power comes from memory, from never forgetting who you were and what you stood for." He coughed, his voice trembling. "They could have destroyed us, but they didn't. They showed mercy. That mercy is heavier than any punishment." He pressed the send key. The message spread through the galaxy faster than light, and when it reached Earth Command, Admiral Rain listened in silence. "Another witness," he said quietly. "Let him speak for us. The promised months passed." The Terran fleets withdrew to the edge of their space, leaving behind a galaxy reborn in silence and fear, and strangely, hope. Every empire that once mocked humanity now guarded its borders carefully. Every academy began teaching old Terran history again. Statues of forgotten human heroes rose on alien worlds, and deep within the command citadel above Earth, Admiral Rain stood once more before the stars. Commander Ellis approached. "The Council has signed the accord, sir. No fleet will cross Terran space again." Rain nodded. "Then it's done." We returned to the silence. Ellis hesitated. "Sir, will they ever truly understand?" Rain looked out toward the endless dark, where the stars shimmered like old wounds healing. "They don't have to," he said softly. "They only have to remember." He turned, walking down the long corridor as the great fleet of humanity slowly vanished into the shadows between stars. And across the galaxy, every civilization carried the same unspoken truth. Humanity's mercy was not weakness. It was a warning, because when the silence ends, the stars tremble.